Imagine for a moment a battlefield that is completely, unnervingly silent. Not because the war is over, because everyone is just waiting. Picture hundreds of massive coalition warships floating motionless in orbit above a burning planet. Their weapons are armed, their shields are active. Entire alien fleets are prepared to fire at a single, isolated target. And that target is Earth. Welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're unlocking the recently declassified historical logs of the Coalition's war with humanity. We're going to dive into their own tactical data to understand exactly what happened on that silent, terrifying battlefield. So let's set the stage.
58. That is exactly how many minutes humanity had left. The Coalition had issued a final, non-negotiable ultimatum: surrender within 1 hour or face total extinction. The clock was ticking down. On the bridge of the Coalition flagship, commanders watched Earth through massive holographic displays, just waiting for the inevitable transmission of defeat. But as the minutes ticked down to 58, then 57, absolutely nothing happened. No signal, just a burning rock and complete silence.
Now, what's really interesting about this tactical readout is the sheer mathematical absurdity of the situation. According to the Coalition's own data, 88% of Earth's orbital defenses are completely destroyed, kaput. Humanity is running on fumes, operating on less than 12% of its military capacity. To the highly logical, calculating minds of the Coalition commanders, this was absolutely baffling. I mean, why delay the inevitable? When you are mathematically defeated, you surrender, right? That is just how the galaxy works. But no one on that bridge dared to say it out loud, because humanity had already spent the last 6 months doing the impossible.
Okay, let's dive into the context of this 6-month war for a second. Officially, it started over a mining colony. But truthfully, the Coalition decided to wipe out humanity out of pure, unadulterated fear. The Coalition's psychological profiles on humans were, well, alarming. The data showed we expanded too quickly. When we were hit, we adapted too quickly, and we recovered far faster than any of their models predicted. Every other species in the galaxy followed predictable, logical patterns. Humans, we simply didn't. And to a galaxy built entirely on order, that unpredictability was utterly terrifying. The Coalition wanted a quick war, a fast victory, and a clean extinction. Instead, they got this. Recorded engagements show that absolutely every human colony fought differently. No matter what the Coalition prepared for, humans became something else. On Planet 1, human defenders intentionally flooded their own cities just to stall a ground invasion. On Planet 2, they literally detonated their own moon, turning it into a giant shrapnel field to trap a Coalition fleet. And in one famously absurd incident, a human captain rammed a heavily damaged commercial cargo ship directly into a Coalition battleship, all while broadcasting upbeat music over open comm channels. The Coalition was winning territory, yes, for sure, but every single victory cost them dearly because humans simply refused to behave like prey. And so, that brings us back to Earth, the final stand. The countdown drops to 45 minutes. The High Commander of the fleet crosses his arms. He assures his incredibly nervous bridge that the humans know they cannot win. And right at that exact moment, a transmission finally breaks the dead silence of the bridge. It's an audio-only feed originating straight from Earth.
A tired, remarkably calm human voice speaks through the static. "You still don't understand us," the voice says. And then, this quote echoes across the bridge. "You think humans fight because we believe we'll survive?" The High Commander narrows his eyes. You know, this wasn't the groveling plea for mercy their fancy models had predicted.
That's not why we fight. The transmission abruptly ends. One officer immediately scoffs, calling it delusional. But the High Commander? He remains totally quiet. What's fascinating here is the psychological data. The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't desperate at all. It sounded resolved. And that absolute finality bothered the commander more than any actual threat ever could have.
The clock hits 30 minutes. Suddenly, the tactical displays just light up. Sensors detect massive movement. Thousands of tiny objects are launching simultaneously from the surface of the Earth, scattering in every conceivable direction. The bridge instantly erupts into panic. Officers are screaming about missiles, frantically bracing for a last-ditch orbital strike. But as the holograms zoom in, targeting scanners reveal a chilling demographic breakdown. The panic turns to absolute disgust. These aren't missiles at all. They are tiny, civilian-class evacuation pods, and they are filled entirely with children, families, and non-combatants. Literally zero military personnel. Thousands of these tiny escape pods are leaving Earth, and the Coalition's automated targeting systems immediately lock onto every single one. And Officer spits in disgust, assuming humanity is cowardly using civilians as a meat shield. But the commander just stares at the screens. Something still feels fundamentally, deeply wrong.
Then the final transmission arrives. This time, it's video. It shows a human woman in a severely damaged military uniform. Smoke is drifting in the air behind her, and you can hear sirens echoing in the background. She looks completely exhausted, terrified, yet incredibly calm. In a quiet, steadfast voice, she speaks to the entire alien armada. "We know Earth is lost, so we made a choice. We can't defeat your fleet, but maybe our children can survive long enough to someday ask why you killed us."
And then she pauses. She looks directly into the camera lens, looking straight at the High Commander light years away, and delivers this haunting reminder. You wanted humanity to disappear. You should have remembered something important. Humans are very bad at dying quietly. And just like that, the transmission ends.
The bridge remains completely frozen. The silence is shattered only by the blaring of the targeting alarms. The pods are rapidly leaving the atmosphere now. Thousands of tiny, totally defenseless targets. Finally, a single officer steps forward and asks the question that hangs incredibly heavy in the air. "Orders, Commander?"
He hesitated. I want you to really think about the weight of this moment and the psychology behind it. For his entire military career, destroying enemy warships was easy. Bombarding armies was easy. But staring at those tiny life signs, at terrified parents holding their children during the literal end of their world, actually, scratch that. It wasn't just different, it broke his entire analytical framework. His officers pressed him, reminding him that if even a fraction of humanity survives, they will inevitably rebuild. They always rebuild. The commander knew that for a fact. He just couldn't bring himself to give the order.
And that hesitation was exactly what the humans were counting on. The counterattack unfolds in absolute chaos. Coalition sensors scream. A massive wave of new contacts is detected. Thousands of human ships violently emerge from the dark side of Earth's moon. The bridge erupts into pure panic as officers scream about a hidden reserve fleet. But as the scanners resolve the image, the commander realizes the horrible truth. These aren't warships. They are old, damaged, barely functioning mining ships, cargo carriers, and transport craft. Literally every remaining vessel humanity could patch together.
It was a suicide fleet. The realization hits the bridge like a physical blow. This is the crucial insight here. The total lack of self-preservation logic completely broke the aliens' combat models. The humans never, for one single second, intended to win this battle. They had zero defensive formations, no retreat paths mapped out in their navigation computers. Absolutely no survival calculations. The entire makeshift fleet just ignited their engines and accelerated directly into the Coalition armada. They were only trying to buy time, creating a massive wall of fire and metal to protect the evacuation pods slipping away into the void. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophical realization that finally broke the High Commander. Up until this moment, the Coalition believed they were fighting a species trying to survive. And, any species willing to die for survival can eventually be defeated, starved out, or mathematically overwhelmed. But a species willing to die for an idea, for future generations they will never even meet, for hope itself, that enemy is unstoppable. For the first time in the entire war, the High Commander felt genuine, cold terror.
The 21-minute massacre defied all tactical logic, unfolding in 3 brutal phases. First, human cargo ships slammed right into Coalition battle lines like meteors, completely ignoring weapons fire. Second, when heavily damaged, human vessels intentionally overloaded their own reactors, turning their ships into massive bombs that consumed entire sectors. And finally, pilots completely ignored fatal damage warnings, keeping their ships fighting while they were literally breaking apart around them. And the most shocking part of this whole shebang, the vastly superior Coalition fleet actually began retreating, not because they lacked the firepower, but out of sheer primal terror. Because there is something deeply unnatural about an enemy that smiles while sacrificing absolutely everything.
When those 21 minutes were over, the battlefield was quiet once again. Earth was gone, reduced to nothing but fire, ash, and floating debris. The Coalition had technically won the war, but as they looked out at the devastation, nobody on that flagship celebrated, because past the burning wreckage of the human fleet, slipping silently into the dark expanse of deep space, the evacuation pods had escaped.
Tracking the aftermath years into the future, we see the true result of that sacrifice. Earth was destroyed, yes, but But those thousands of tiny pods drifted out way beyond the edges of the maps. And years later, Coalition explorers started finding them. First, they discovered small, remote colonies, then larger outposts. And before long, humanity was everywhere again. They had survived. They had rebuilt, just as the commander feared, far beyond the reach of the Coalition.
But they didn't just rebuild. They left a message. Carved deep into the stone entrance of the very first rebuilt human colony, Coalition scouts found 6 towering words. 6 words that perfectly captured the unstoppable nature of their sacrifice. We were never trying to survive. It leaves you wondering, how do you ever defeat an enemy whose ultimate victory lies in their own destruction?